Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Pop Anime Comics here from PopAnimeComics.com and the Pop Anime Comics Lounge podcast, where I interview voice actors, comic writers, artists, cosplayers, and professional wrestlers. And this is the wrap-up show. We're going to be talking about My Hero Academia Season 4, Episode 81 overall. Really interesting episode where it's almost part filler, part filling in and connecting the dots and moving the story along, and then kind of transitioning into the next arc or mini arc, however you want to look at it. So, the concept for the first part of the episode is that they're prepping up for a school festival. And unlike the Hero Festival, this one is a bit smaller and it has a more focus on the support group, the general studies, and the business groups to really shine and get attention. It's really meant for the internal school and I guess grading and all that jumble stuff that I'm taking a leap of faith and assuming is what it's for, but it's really meant for them to shine. But just because it's meant for them to shine doesn't mean that every class doesn't have to participate. And so the hero class has to participate, and they're coming up with this concept of what to do, how to do it. And after having a debate, and it's kind of humorous, and they all have these crazy ideas, and everybody has a different idea of what they should be doing, they settle on creating a live performance and dance and skit and doing something along those lines, sort of ravish, if you will, under Gyro or Jiro's direction. And she's kind of getting, I guess, a moment to shine because the music stuff is her thing due to her quirk and the ear jacks and all that stuff. So, really interesting, kind of fun, kind of nice. It's actually really nice to have a very much cool down position because after the entire overhaul arc, I think we need a few episodes to calm down. And we've seen, even the last episode with Bakugo and Todoroki and those people was a bit intense. It wasn't as intense, but this is kind of a nice cooling down position from that. And then the second half of the episode is Deku visits Eri with Luminian, and they're talking to her, and she wants to know both their real names, and she's blaming herself for their injuries. She doesn't know about Sir Night Eye. They didn't tell her. And then Deku realizes that Overhaul Shadow is still surrounding Eri, and that he wants to make her smile, and that he kind of failed because now she can't smile. And so Deku has this concept of bringing her to the school festival and engaging in that and seeing if that would make her smile and kind of start breaking this shadow of Overhaul outside of her and getting it out of her system and away from her and making her kind of a normal girl and going back to normalcy, for lack of a better word. And Eraserhead is totally cool with it. He's not against it and he's fine with it because she's obviously under more control now and she's stabler than before, and her quirk is sort of under control. So that's kind of cool. And then the third part of the episode is we get this villain Gentle, and he's kind of very showcasing, and he's not committing crimes for money but for fame. And he has a bigger scheme in mind, and he has La Brava as his sidekick, and really interesting character. Not exactly sure where we're going with this villain. It's odd. He says, put the money and stack it up neatly, and then he leaves the money after all these heroes show up, and he's like video recording and sending to the police. And then he's like, I want a bigger scheme because I want to go down in history. So that's the episode as far as a summary. Not very much goes on. Very much filler-esque where things are important that move this story along. But it's clear to me that I don't foresee that this is going to have any major impact on the My Hero Academia universe. Where if this is like 2 or 3 episodes, I think we can skip it. It's nice because it does have character development, but I don't think that it's going to be adding much in the terms of growing up. And I think it's just that there's other arcs that are coming, and this is kind of just that cooling down period where we're getting stuff and we're getting a different focus and we're getting just a little small incident here or there. And I think it's nice. I think it's nice. Also, I think it's nice that we're getting a high school component to this show now, where high schools in Japan have school festivals. In America, we have homecoming. It's the equivalent. So I think that's nice too, that we forget in My Hero Academia, because these kids have been subjected and thrown into the world of heroes, that they are students and that they are children still, and they're teenage children at best. So I think we forget that that's what they are, and it's nice to be reminded that they still have to grow up. They're not full-fledged adults, and I think this is actually a nice reminder. And while it's filler-esque, I don't think it's complete filler. I think it's the idea that we're reminded, and it brings us back to a base level. Because if we look at the last big arc with Overhaul, that was very much an adult circumstance, and Sir Night Eye's death is an adult circumstance, and even season 3 with the removal of All Might and his power being drained, very adult circumstances and coming into adulthood. And this is reminding us as fans that they're still kids, they're still children, they're still in school, they still have a lot of learning to do, they're being subjected, and they have to come into the real world a lot faster and grow up a lot faster. But it's nice to be reminded that they're still children and that they still have elements of being a child. And I think that is really, really smart and really, really efficient and understanding, and hits the nail on the head with this. And so that's why I say it's filler-esque, because I think it carries a lot of weight. And I think that's something that's nice. Not to mention that we're getting the movie soon, a second one. And so I don't think that they want to go and start something immediately, because they want to interject it, and they're going to be most likely making an announcement next week about that. And so I think that's also the other thing, is that they don't want to go and start another arc or another mini arc. They want to throw that movie in, and maybe even this villain and all that stuff will deal with, the movie, or they want just a good interjecting point to bring it in. And so we might have like 2-3 episodes with this villain, and then the movie's out, and then we move on from there. So I think it's really smart. I think that they're doing a really good job with it. And I say filler-esque because I think that there is merit to this. I think it brings us back to a neutral base that we need to cool down. And I think we need to be reminded, and this episode does that indirectly, that these are still students. And I think that's something that we forget. And even me watching it in the last season 3, the second half of season 3 was very adult. And I think that that's something that's really, really important to understand, is that these are not adults right now, and they're coming into adulthood, but they're still children. And I think that that's such an interesting concept, and I think it's a really clever way that they've done it in this anime. And so that's something that I'm actually very impressed with and stoked about, where they took something that technically could be filler, and arguably there's probably a 70% chance that you could argue, and you would probably win if you really wanted to punch it in, that this episode is filler and that this arc is filler. And I would probably lose that debate. But I'm making the argument that despite it being that, it does go back and put the show back into a neutral base and a cool down period, and a position where we now realize that they're still learning to do, and they're still in high school, and that they have things like a school festival, or what we would call homecoming, or what we would call a dance in high schools. And so I think that that's something very, very smart that this show does, and it's really good that they've done this in this way, because I think that if we were to overall look at this show, the show has done this type of thing before, where they've had resets, and not resetting what has happened, but resetting the stage. And that's what this is, and that's what the words I'm looking for. So a little bit of jumbling right there, but I think that's the point. I think that's what it does really efficiently in this episode. So that's my entire take on it. I'm going to quickly go through my social. Check it out. Don't check it out. It's completely up to you. So my website is popanimecomics.com. My Twitter handle is @popanimecomics. My Facebook page is Pop Anime Comics. My Instagram is Pop Anime Comics. My podcast is the Pop Anime Comics Lounge. Just type in Pop Anime Comics Lounge. It'll come up, or you can listen on my website. In the bar on the side, a really cool concept. To have at it. Also, I have a pro wrestling t-shirt shop. That's Pop Anime Comics. So just type that in. It'll come up. Buy my shirt. I have all the links down below in the description box. And I have a few other links as well. Typically, anything that's mine that says Pop Anime Comics is mine unless I owe you money, and then I'm going to quietly walk away as if I broke something in a store. And until next week, everybody, I will see you next week talking about more of My Hero Academia and just continuing to cover it because it's getting better and better each and every week. And I will definitely, on the 26th, I want to say, is when the movie comes out, I will be also reviewing that and talking about that because this stuff is awesome and I'm super stoked for that. And I'll probably talk more about that in next week's episode of the wrap-up show. Till then, everybody stay frosty.